Fellow Anguillians, as we celebrate 25 years since the establishment of the Social Security Scheme, there is no doubt that this system is one of our most significant and significant achievements to date. We are grateful for the visionaries led by the late James Ronald Webster, who had the foresight to introduce this special fund despite the critics. Today, the Social Security Fund is by far the lifeline and most important fund taking into context the reality of our current situation since the passage of Hurricane Irma. The board, for the first time, is introducing a temporary unemployment benefit to help those workers who have been negatively impacted by Hurricane Irma. It is not my intention to labor on this issue, as it is being addressed by other speakers. In my address, I will focus on the socio-economic situation in Anguilla, highlighting how we as a society have regressed and the need for us to return to the way of life that's once termed this small special island paradise. Additionally, I will explain how these issues have implications for the survival of the Social Security Fund going forward. There is no doubt that Hurricane Irma was a destructive hurricane, and the aftermath has exposed our narrow vision of failing to diversify our economy over the years. The Bible says that a people without a vision will perish. We did not need a rocket scientist to inform us that we were playing with fire by relying on an economy based mainly on tourism. We only have ourselves to blame for not acting seriously in past years to transform this economy. We are now paying a serious price for our inaction and small vision. Many persons are of the view that the current economic systems on the island are set up to benefit a few, thus leaving the majority of the population disenfranchised. One author opined that free open enterprise is turning out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing when businesses focus only on the isolated agenda for growth. As a human resources professional with experiences in both the public and private sector, my observation tells me that there is need for a more compassionate relationship between employers and employees. Although research has illustrated that the most important asset for any business is the human capital, many employers still fail to value their employees, which can result in loyalty, more productivity, and happier staff, contributing also to good customer service. Please note, I am not against an investor making a return on his investment. Despite the dire situation we find ourselves in, there are opportunities for us to revamp this economy in an inclusive society where everyone benefits. However, any realistic vision of change must be based on the notion of empowerment of the people and shared prosperity for all. Failure to do such, we will all perish. Although Anguilla is a small island, we still have some natural resources which we have never fully exploited. For example, we have to seriously address the issue of food security on the island. It is common knowledge that we import almost everything. In my humble view, agriculture, if exploited and planned in the proper manner, it still has an important role to play in this economy. Even though capital intensive at the initial stage, agronomics and hydroponics farming should be explored to produce items for local consumption and to export to nearby islands. Also, a fishing consultant noted that there is room, albeit within our constraints, for increasing large pelagic fish production from the coastal waters of Anguilla. He added that skipjack, swordfish, mahi-mahi, and marlins are present in the Anguilla waters. There is potential for a fish processing plant that can also be used to export fish to the EU and the USA. Sadly, while we stand by idly not doing anything, it is believed that some foreign longline ships are fishing illegally in our waters. Population growth has always been a contentious issue, with many persons arguing for and against it. The passing of Hurricane Irma has heightened this issue. During the past months, we have observed many of our locals migrating to the UK and the USA, thus further lessening the population. This too will result in a brain drain on the island. However, for any business community to be viable, there is need for a sustained consumer market. In fact, the survival of the Social Security Fund hinges on an increased population. I am in support for the immigration of a skilled labor force of high net worth individuals who can set up their businesses in Anguilla, but their customers will be overseas. The benefits to the island of this idea will be huge, inclusive of better paying jobs, rental apartments, and more tax revenue for government, to name a few. A holistic approach to this new proposed venture must be encouraged, taking into consideration the need to also develop the island's infrastructure and social services. One author begs a question: can we envision a world where no one is enslaved by hourly salary, but instead works on behalf of the community and is then supported and valued by the community? This argument is being proposed by the Basic Income Movement, whereby employees are paid a monthly lump sum to cater for their basic needs. Let us be mindful that to live in Anguilla is very costly, and such a thought will help to empower our people. I am appalled of the prevalence of the old trick of divide and rule which exists within our society and the success it still has. As a people, we must reject those persons among us who promote malice, hatred, gossip, racism, and East versus West. There are some leaders among us who get a feeding frenzy from these types of ills to the detriment of our society. According to Bob Marley, we have to emancipate ourselves from slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Dr. Myles Munroe also noted that to change your life, you have to change your mind. Let us not leave negative outside influences, including our own among us, continue to divide us. If we cannot be our brother's keeper, we should not be our brother's enemy. To be ambitious in this society, for some people, they will act as if you are committing a crime. The crab in the barrel mentality is more prominent than ever before. Rather than uplifting or encouraging each other, we are quick to tear down and destroy. We should be happy to see each other succeed, thereby making invaluable contributions to our society. Sad to say, many young persons are frustrated with the system and with the stumbling blocks that are put in their paths. I'm encouraging young persons to be different. We were all born with a special gift to fulfill our purpose for the betterment of humanity. So why fit in when you were born to stand out? In your humble way, you can impact society positively. I'm also appealing to our young people not to despise small beginnings. Remember, you have to creep before you walk. Be aware of promises of get-rich-fast schemes and resist temptations to go after money rather than to build your value. According to Winston Churchill, it is a mistake to try to look too far ahead. The chain of destiny can only be grasped one link at a time. I'm encouraging our young men to be cautious of their desire to want to live a life of keeping up with the Joneses and thereby compromising their values. The Bible says that for what will it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? I remind you of Judas who betrayed Christ. Yes, he got the money, but he lost his soul. I am personally grateful for our education system, which has been instrumental in giving me a good foundation to pursue tertiary education overseas. There is no doubt that many past students will echo the same sentiment. However, in my humble opinion, our education system is failing us with regards to the principle of teamwork. I cannot recall ever doing a school project as part of a team during my school days. To date, our school system still focuses on individualism rather than putting emphasis on teamwork in preparing students for the real world of work. No wonder we cannot work together or collaborate on most things. The competitive culture that our school system subtly promoted has been to our demise in many areas, including business. While we refuse to help or work together, I have seen other businesses of certain nationality on the island collaborating on the purchase of items and in some cases supplying another, even though that business is a competitor. I was recently speaking with an old classmate of mine who highlighted to me that the lack of a deliberate civic studies program in our school's curriculum has also been a hindrance to nation building. The main reasons for civic education is to encourage citizens to be actively involved in their affairs and to offer the input in the runnings of their country, and not passively accept the morals of others or acquiesce to the demands of others. Civic studies also focuses on the proposition that the common good is a concern for all. We need to urgently address these issues and more in our school's curriculum. There are some persons among us who feel that they are better off than others and behave as if they are demigods. We were all made in the same image and likeness of God, I grew up hearing the phrase, "No man is an island." The recent passage of Hurricane Irma illustrated how easily we all can end up in the same boat. Material things that sadly some of us worship can vanish in a few hours. We need to care for and respect each other, irrespective of our race, ethnic origin, religious beliefs, or status in society. Let us cultivate real, warming, loving relationships with one another. Let us once again say good morning and good evening even to our so-called enemies. Let us also be grateful to persons who help us in some small way. We need to develop an attitude of gratitude. We need to be humble. The Bible says that those who exalt themselves will be humble, and the humble will be exalted. We were once a society that reverenced and referenced God. It is sad to say that we have been lacking in this regard. In some cases, the situation is so bad that some believers are persecuted when they talk about God's goodness. Church, Sunday school, which played an integral part in the spiritual development of our youth, now barely exists. Spiritual growth is of paramount importance for us to combat and have victory over the evil forces that roam this cruel world. The Bible tells us that we no longer fight against flesh and blood, but against rulers of the dark world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. One will be surprised to know the persons are professionals who are operating in this kind of world. I'm encouraging persons who are being attacked by the enemy to stand firm and do not be dismayed. When God is for you, who can be against you? No weapons formed against you shall ever prosper. Let us work together to restore the God-fearing society we once have. The Bible says that the beginning of wisdom is to fear God. We also have to be mindful and cautious of the kinds of relationships or friendships we hang around. You know a true friend when a misfortune befalls you. All those persons who were till then acted as your friend will desert you. There's a saying, prosperity makes friends, adversity tries them. Nelson Mandela noted that he has a special attachment to the people who befriended him during times of distress. There are many in society, including your so-called friends, will rejoice when you encounter trials and tribulations in life. Life has a strange way of dealing with things. When your brother bears is on fire, soak yours. I remind you that there are no negatives in life, only challenges to be overcome that will make you stronger. Jealousy and envy are also two evils that one must be vigilant of when forging friendship with others. Not everyone who's around you is for you. In fact, not everybody who smiles with you has your best interest at heart. According to Bob Marley, some will eat and drink with you, then behind they suss upon you. Marley consciously and spiritually added that some will hate you, pretend they love you, then behind they try to eliminate you, but who Jah bless, no man curse. One needs to keep his or her circle of friends tight. Find someone who you can confide in and who will love you no matter what. So where do we go from here? I am confident that despite the present situation we find ourselves in, we as a people need to come together to restore the compassionate, peaceful, God-fearing and loving society that we once have. There is hope for our island. Do not let the current situation leave a permanent print on your mind. We are still a society that lives by faith and not by sight. We will rise again. There, however, needs to be a changed mindset. Change begins with each one of us, but collectively we must have a shared vision based on a shared prosperity and spiritual growth. John F. Kennedy said it perfectly. Remember, it is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I end with these two powerful Bible verses. Mankind can have many plans, but the Lord's purpose will always prevail. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. I repeat, mankind can have many plans, but the Lord's purpose will always prevail. Proverbs 19, verse 21. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127, verse 1. The future of our Social Security scheme rests with us boldly tackling the issues I address. Failure on our part to act now and decisively, the Social Security Fund will no longer exist in the coming years. May God continue to bless Anguilla.